Hey John, hi. Firstly, welcome to India. Welcome to Hyderabad. And I hope you're having a great time here.
I am. It's been fantastic so far.
So awesome. So just for our viewers who are viewing us, I think John is probably Director of Innovation at one of the largest aerospace organizations in the world, right? We've taken the time off from John. John has taken the time off to be able to engage with us, have a conversation with us, and to tell the perspective of how Collins Aerospace is looking at innovation on a whole, the kind of initiatives that Collins Aerospace is taking up. But before that, who is John, right? Great. I think so. What we know of John is that he's from Director of Innovation, huge pedigree, lot of experience, worked at Sikorsky for I don't know how many years, a graduate of Yale, graduate of John Hopkins. So John, I would love to know about that part of your life, which was before you, that element of your life, which is before you got into Collins.
No. Happy to do so. And appreciate you having me. So, mechanical engineer by training. You mentioned I did my undergrad degree at Yale. Joined Sikorsky Aircraft right after that. Started as a engineer, grew into kind of program management strategy. Worked for what is now known as Sikorsky Innovations, which is the advanced technology organization. So I got to build a manned electric helicopter in 2010 before there was this thing called advanced air mobility.
Wow.
I was dropping drones out of Black Hawk helicopters before that was a cool thing to do. So really enjoyed that portion of it. As you mentioned, during my career at Sikorsky, picked up an MBA along the way from Johns Hopkins. Just prior, kind of at the end of my collegiate career, just before joining Sikorsky, I looked over the edge of entrepreneurship right before the U.S. had some financial difficulty in 2009. Came back to it, really said, we as larger organizations need to be working more closely with startups and did some programs at Sikorsky. And then joined Collins 8 months ago as the Director of Open Innovation.
Amazing. So, 2008, 2009, the startup ecosystem was just about taking off, right?
Correct.
So, how did that sort of a journey align? What was your introduction? How did you get into engaging with startups, into innovations? How do you start looking at startups from innovation perspective?
Yeah, no, I'd say, my experience of being an entrepreneur for all of 30 seconds, gave me a perspective that said, small businesses have an agility and really a drive to innovate that is matched by larger companies. But I'd say, larger companies in their own way are their own ecosystem in the sense of you have the company is its own venture capitalist, right? You're making bets on internal innovation. But 08, 09, even, past that, you started seeing, technology cycles are always speeding up, but I think you saw this exponential increase in kind of tech cycles and a realization that there was real innovation happening at the intersection of specialties, at the intersection of industries. So as an aerospace company, we wanted to be able to access some of that innovation and share it with those businesses. I think also, 08, 09, and even a little previous, you weren't seeing a lot of startups in aerospace, right? Aerospace was a very tough market.
Very niche.
Very niche. Lots of barriers to entry, lots of regulatory hurdles. And so we were seeing companies that were purposely choosing not to innovate in the industry because there were other verticals that were easier to innovate in. And we wanted to make sure that people understood not only that you could do such a thing, but that it was fairly straightforward to do so.
So do you think the ecosystem has evolved to support innovation and entrepreneurship in the aerospace industry right now?
Yes.
Beyond bigger companies, if a startup wants to innovate, build himself from ground up in the aerospace ecosystem, right? Do you think that ecosystem is supportive of that?
I think so, and I think it's in two dimensions. So to your point, just the pure I want to be in the aerospace market, I want to be doing work in the industry. I think you have much more awareness amongst venture capitalists, amongst private equity folks in terms of what that business model is, what it takes. We saw evidence of that with some of the recent funding rounds of advanced air mobility companies, for instance. I think you have many more specialized incubators and accelerators, whether it's you guys here or others. But I also think the other dimension is you're seeing many startups also realize that aerospace is a place where we can accept technology at higher risk and earlier than many other verticals. And we're also willing to pay a premium for that technology because our products start at a premium.
Got it.
Innovators that are in other verticals, whether it's med tech, whether it's automotive, like another transportation vertical, saying, well, maybe aerospace can be first for me as one of many places that I innovate.
Got it. One is the aerospace space, right? But secondly, innovation, open innovation as such, right? The entire ecosystem of open innovation, which is getting built out. How do you think that has evolved over the period of time, right? I mean, you've been there from 2009, 2010, that's like almost 13 years, 12, 13 years, right? How did you see that game play out? Are people are corporates engaging with open innovation more now, less now, or stagnated over a period of time? How is that playing?
Yeah, no, I'd say a similar growth on the part of large corporations. You know, if you're not seeing open innovation as existential to what it is you're doing, I think you're falling behind.
Wow.
You know, back in a decade and a half ago, many corporates were still in the, I'll call it the not invented here space. If I'm not creating it myself, if I'm not protecting it myself, if I'm not defending it myself, it's not something I want to do, right? I think what you're seeing now is just any number of large corporations being able to say, you know, we not only want to engage, but we need to engage because what our customers are demanding are so multifaceted, so multi-technology, that to put the system together doesn't make sense for us to do it alone.
Yeah. Interesting. So it is very interesting that you should mention that it has moved from a could be to a should be now, right? But most organizations, right, the very fact that you've taken the time to come down from US to be in India, visiting India, Hyderabad, Bangalore, so on and so forth, a lot of senior leadership is doing that right now, right? And you seem to have solved that piece. And that piece that I'm coming to is that senior leadership, especially in R&D, right, especially in people who are doing cutting edge technology inside organization, they seem to be doing a bit of a pushback. You know, they seem to maybe there is a mindset saying that, is it a challenge for us? Or, you know, are they challenging our existential, you know, our existence, our relevance in the organization, right? So they sort of approach it from a challenger approach, right? So you seem to have broken that mold. How did that pan out for you? I mean, how did you guys manage to get your top guys convinced about saying that innovation, open innovation is the way to go forward?
I think one very important thing to realize is that, to your point, if you have the perspective of this is challenging to my business, you're seeing it almost as a zero-sum game, right?
Yeah.
You know, if I don't innovate in this space and somebody else does, I lose out. You know, what we've seen, and I think what Collins demonstrates just because of the breadth of our portfolio, is by innovating together, getting things to market faster, being able to iterate at a more accelerated basis, you're actually creating opportunity that benefits both parties or all the parties in a collaboration. So we actually see it as mutually beneficial to both our markets to do so. So that's kind of step one. I'd say step two is, you know, there are some times where you approach open innovation from this broader brush perspective, right? I have a particular technology vertical I want to get interested in. You find kind of interesting companies doing very innovative work. And then you go searching for a solution in the business that requires the technology, right? And that kind of process can lead to delays, stagnation, and that's where you lose senior leadership. So I'd say what we've taken the approach of is, let's start with our customers, those needs, and the needs that our programs have, so that when we find a fit, you're rapidly moving to a proof of concept. You're showing value very quickly, and then that gets engagement.
Awesome. I think I was talking to somebody else the other day, and he said that lack of open innovation is like inflation, right? So if you're not moving ahead, it's actually eating up into what it is exactly what you are echoing right now, right? Super, right? So more specific to Collins, right? I think the kind of buy-in that Collins has had for open innovation is terrific, right? The kind of engagements that you're doing is terrific, right? So how is Collins looking at open innovation? Which means from the perspective of, if you're looking out for startups, are you looking out for solutions? Are you looking out for, you know, how are you planning to engage with the ecosystem outside from an open innovation perspective? The broader strategies, please.
Yeah, no. So for Collins, right, open innovation is about purposeful engagement with innovator communities. So let's start there for a second. And it's not just one community. Certainly startups are important. I throw scale-ups right in there with startups. So, whether you're a 5-person company that's just getting to MVP, whether you're a 100 or 200 person company that's been through multiple rounds of funding,
got it.
That's one community. T-Hub is doing also fantastic work with universities, and for us, universities and academia, another important innovator community to be touching. And then third is our own entrepreneurs, right? So we have, tens of thousands of people at 300 sites around the world, being able to leverage and unlock that. And what we're starting to do is stitch those communities together. So how can we take insight from our entrepreneurs, match that with an academic or with a startup, and bring that all together? Now, let me answer the question a little more specifically. With startups and scale-ups, we've put out a formal initiative where we can engage with companies. We post very specific we call them collaboration opportunities. These are needs that my program team has. We invite companies to raise their hand and say, hey, we could help Collins with that. And then I provide non-dilutive funding to do a proof of concept to really prove out that value rapidly.
Yeah. So awesome. I think non-dilutive funding, right?
Yes.
I think that'll perk up a lot of ears. Right? Because that is really very interesting, because the first time somebody wants to engage an organization, right? And the organization is providing funding, the first thought which comes up, okay, how much of equity am I going to give away? Right? So what is your take on that? Why non-dilutive equity, and why are you doing it in the first place if you're not looking at some kind of a takeaway from this? So what can you explain me your thesis on that? A little more deeper dive on that.
Happy to do so. For me, non-dilutive funding is a vote of confidence from my business saying, we're serious about exploring this with you. We don't expect any company on the planet to have the exact solution we're looking for, right? If the exact solution existed, we wouldn't be doing the outreach.
Absolutely.
So we know that startups especially have to really prioritize how they engage their resources, both people and funding. And so we want to be able to provide that little relief and say, look, we're serious about this. We want to engage. Here's how we do that. To me, though, the non-dilutive funding is purposeful in that it's funding a proof of concept. And what we're proving with that is kind of a couplefold. One, does your technology and our technology work together to create something new and interesting? Can we get to kind of that minimum viable product of a joint collaboration? Two, do our teams work well together? Does it make sense? Are we really innovating together? Synergies. And then third, to your point on leadership, let's bring our leadership in along with the process, make sure that everybody is bought in along the way to do so. We want the companies we're collaborating with to keep their IP. We're not looking to take IP right away, nor really ever if the collaboration makes sense. But what we are looking for is how do we put kind of one and one together to make 4 instead of 2.
Interesting you should mention about IP, because I think in most cases, organizations don't want to engage outside the organization because of a lot of their IP protocols that they've built internally, right? How would you look at that? That balance of IP versus open innovation, how do you manage to balance that?
Yeah, and I'd say, it gets back to almost some of my original experience in open innovation. Like a decade and a half ago, I almost termed it the robber baron problem, because you had large companies that were taking initiatives and then aggressive IP terms or things like that. And so many startups felt as if it was a highway robbery of their kind of intellectual property. I see how we balance it as you're bringing unique capabilities to the table. That is something you should continue to own and continue to flourish, because Aerospace is not going to be your only marketplace in many, many cases. Collins is bringing unique experience and technology to the table. So when we create something together, let's talk about a mutual value proposition that makes most sense for us to do so. But the goal at the end of the day is we want those small companies to be successful so that we can be successful together.
Got it.
Otherwise, it makes no sense.
Got it. So they are contributing towards your success. That is good enough cause for you to go after. And IP happens along the way. That's great.
Exactly. And IP happens along the way. And those are things that we deal with on a case-by-case basis. Because there may be times where a company says, look, aerospace is interesting for us, but maybe we want to license the technology and let Khaled take the majority share of the development risk. There may be times where Khaled says, look, we can license IP and let a small business kind of run and make something happen.
Or also, we can take you to the market. You might have a product and you can have a patent, but if you're not able to take it to the market, what point is it? I mean, it's like a patent in your pocket which cannot be monetized. Right? So I think there are a lot of, it definitely makes a lot of sense. The ability of Collins to take you global like that, right? I think that is something that a startup would take probably maybe 15, 20 years to do on its own, right? So there's this huge strength or muscle that you're getting onto the table along with them. I also understand that you guys are running a powered by Collins program, right? I heard it's a global program, agnostic, geography agnostic, anybody can apply for a program. Would love to know a little more on that.
No, happy to talk a little bit more about it because it's really the first proof point of our commitment to this open innovation ecosystem. So, and I mentioned it kind of in general terms previously, but Powered by Collins is an initiative we just launched. It is open to any business with more than 3 full-time employees located anywhere on the globe. So like I said, startups, scale-ups, mid-sized firms, anybody. The way this works is we post collaboration opportunities that a company can raise their hand to and say, yes, I'm interested in working with you on that. It's very simple. I'm asking for 3 pages of kind of publicly available information. What I do there though is, and maybe what might be a little different, is we go right from that kind of application to a conversation with our program team. So we'll shortlist a set of companies to come in, speak to our program teams directly.
Got it.
You'll have that conversation, and if the program team says, yes, there's something here, that's when I provide that non-dilutive funding to go do a proof of concept project.
Got it. And the funding ranges from X to Y. I mean, is there any kind of a boundary that you've set around that?
We haven't necessarily set a boundary for these first ones because each company is going to require different resources.
Correct.
And to your point, funding being one aspect of it, customer insights being another aspect of it, maybe customer access. Use of our facilities also not out of the question. Like I said, I have 300 sites in 30 plus countries.
Yes.
So we really want to be able to evaluate the need versus having a more standardized, you get this and nothing else.
Got it. So that engagement, right? I mean, is it restrictive, saying that, okay, you can't work with anybody else while you're working with us? How do the modalities of that go?
So really what we're talking about here is a 6-month proof of concept program. So we're not talking about a lockup in any way. We will want to sign just an agreement with you that says we're working together to understand if this makes sense. I always like to say relationships that jump from a initial meeting to a long-term relationship, you skip many steps of that getting to know you process along the way. And we're very cognizant of that. So we're putting in place really rapid ways of doing that work together. But what it'll show up first as is a purchase order from me for funding to go work together.
Got it. Great. And how does it end up? I mean, do they have options of continuing as your partner, continuing as your vendor, continuing as, how do you see the longer term perspective after you finish that validation?
So I like to think of how we can work together as really tools in a toolbox that we should pull from as we get to know each other. So, we're going to do this 3 to 6 months proof of concept together, at which point what I'm hoping is we've proven value to our business and our program, and they want to continue with you working together. Now, whether that ends up being a vendor relationship, whether that ends up being a joint development relationship, whether that ends up being we should go talk to one of our customers together relationship, that's all to be defined. I'd also like to point out, as part of our parent company, Raytheon, we do have a corporate venture capital fund set up that can do equity investments.
Nice.
So that's an opportunity there. And also introductions to other folks within our corporation. So intent is really, let's keep it small and focused and prove value in one use case, and then expand as it looks like there's a productive collaboration.
Great. And are you seeing good response? Are you how is it panning out for you guys?
No, we're seeing great response so far, and we're so pleased to be able to work with T-Hub as an activation site and the inaugural activation site for this initiative. We're seeing engagement really across the world, North America, South America, Europe, Asia Pacific. And so We still have a few weeks left. We're going to close kind of this first call for solution briefs on May 19th. But yeah, we're very pleased with what we're seeing so far.
Awesome. And how has India treated you? Liking the place, liking the country, liking Hyderabad?
Yeah, I love Hyderabad, the city. It's been a phenomenal experience so far, and really, to me, a engaging experience. So you know, we have the city is beautiful itself, but just the energy, kind of the innovative spirit, the entrepreneurs I've met here and elsewhere have just been driven towards solving real world challenges, and I think that's something that is pretty unique. So now looking forward to coming back.
Sure. Awesome. Thanks a lot, John. Amazing to have a conversation with you. I've learned a lot. I'm very sure about that, especially coming from somebody like you in the aerospace industry who spent 15-20 years in the aerospace industry, looking at it from inside out and open innovation outside in, right? Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on the show, and I'll catch up with you.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man. Bye.